Our story starts a really, really long time ago. It began in the warm lands of Africa. Africa was the very first home for our oldest family members. These family members from long ago, well, they weren't quite like us today. In lots of ways, they were more like the apes from a long time ago, but they were special. They were one of a kind. They were right at the start of our big human family tree. This journey of changing took millions and millions of years. It was a slow change, happening one little step at a time. We call this amazing process evolution. One of our famous early family members was called Australopithecus. Maybe you've heard of Lucy? She was an Australopithecus. Lucy lived in Africa over 3 million years ago, and guess what? She was pretty small compared to us. Her face and body were a little bit like an ape's, but Lucy did something super cool. She walked on 2 feet. This skill of walking upright is called bipedalism. That's a big word for walking on 2 legs. Walking on 2 feet was a huge step for our old family. It changed the way they moved and the way they lived. Their hands were now free to do other stuff. Having free hands was super helpful for these early folks. With their hands free, our ancient family members could carry food back to their group. They could also carry their little babies much more easily. Way later, they started using their hands to make and use tools. The first group known for this skill was, their name, well, it actually means handyman. They lived in Africa around 2 million years ago. They made simple tools by chipping away at stones. These simple tools helped them cut meat and crack open bones. This was a super important skill for staying alive. Life wasn't easy for these super old-timey people. They lived in big, open, grassy areas called savannas. These places were full of dangers and tricky things. Big hunters like giant cats were always a danger. Finding enough food to eat was a challenge every single day. To stay alive, they had to be clever and good at figuring things out. They also probably had to work together and help each other out. This hard life made them have to change. It pushed them to get used to things and to change even more over time. Later on in our evolution story, a new ancestor appeared. Their scientific name means upright man. They first lived about 1.8 million years ago. Folks were usually taller than. Their brains were also a lot bigger. Bigger brains meant they could think in more complex ways. They got good at making better stone tools. These tools, like hand axes, were shaped more carefully. They were used for many jobs, like cutting up animals. Learned something truly game-changing and amazing. They learned to control and use fire. Fire was a very big discovery for early humans. It changed almost everything about how they lived. Fire gave them warmth on cold nights and in cooler areas. It helped scare away dangerous animals and predators. Most importantly, fire also let them cook their food. Cooked food was softer, easier to digest, and gave them more energy. This extra energy might have helped support their bigger brains. With their bigger brains, better tools, and control of fire became great explorers. They were the first human species to travel out of Africa. This was an incredibly important migration in human history. Slowly, over thousands of years, they spread out. Groups have reached different parts of Asia. Some also made it to parts of Europe. This spread showed how incredibly well they could adapt. They learned to live in new places and different climates. For a very long time in Earth's history, there were different kinds of humans. It wasn't the only kind of human around. In Europe and parts of Western Asia, Neanderthals evolved. Neanderthals were strong and well-built. They were well-suited to survive in cold Ice Age conditions. In Asia, scientists also discovered another group called the Denisovans. We are still learning many details about these ancient relatives of ours. Our own species showed up much later back in Africa too. Our own species is known as. This scientific name means wise person or knowing person. We first appeared in Africa about 300,000 years ago. What made so special and in the end so successful? Our brains were very big, about the same size as Neanderthal brains. But more importantly, we started to think in completely new ways. We became incredibly creative, imaginative, and innovative. Many scientists call this period the cognitive revolution. It was like a major update for our minds. A very big part of this cognitive revolution was the development of language. We developed a complex, flexible language. We could share lots of detailed information. We could talk about things that weren't right there in front of us. We could discuss the past, plan for the future, and imagine things. We could tell stories, create legends, and share beliefs. This ability helped us work together in very large groups. Effective communication became one of our biggest superpowers. It allowed for teamwork on a scale never seen before. Our tools also became much more complex and varied. We learned to make smaller, sharper, and more specialized tools. We used not just stone, but also materials like bone, antler, and ivory. We invented new tools, like needles, to sew clothes from animal skins. We created spear throwers, which allowed us to hunt more safely and effectively. We developed fish hooks and nets to catch food from the water. These new technologies helped us get more food. They also allowed us to live in a wider range of environments. With these advancements, life became a bit safer. We began to live in larger, more organized groups. We formed hunter-gatherer groups, usually made up of a few families. We shared food, resources, and important information needed to survive. We helped each other raise children and care for the sick. We also started to create the first forms of art. We painted wonderful pictures of animals on cave walls. We carved small statues from stone, bone, or ivory. This was the dawn of human culture and thinking in symbols. It showed our complex inner world and our need to express it. Our super long history of how we've changed and grown still has a big impact on us today. Our bodies and even some of the things we do changed over time to fit a life of hunting and gathering food. For many, many thousands of years, we walked for miles every day. We ate the wild plants and animals we found. This is one reason why many people today really like sugary and fatty foods. For our ancestors, these foods that give lots of energy were rare and very special. But today, in many parts of the world, it's very easy to find these foods. This difference between our old bodies and our new world can cause health problems. About 12,000 years ago, there was a big change in how people lived. People started to farm. This is called the farming revolution. We learned how to grow crops like wheat and rice. We also learned how to tame and raise animals like cows and sheep. Because of farming, people started to live in one place for longer. Villages where people stayed grew, and then towns and cities were made. This was a big change from our past when we moved around to hunt and gather food. It completely changed human groups and how we connect with the earth. Our big creative brains and our special ability to work together in large, flexible groups were the key. These things about us that grew over millions of years of changing helped to spread. In the end, we settled in almost every corner of the planet. We became a very successful and powerful species. We learned to change our environment in big ways. We built amazing cities, technologies, and ways of living together, but our success also brought big challenges. We have a very big effect on the planet and other living things. To find our way in the future, we need to use the wisdom we've gained from our past carefully. Understanding how humans changed over time is very, very important for everyone. It tells the wonderful story of where we came from as a kind of living thing. It helps us understand our own bodies, minds, and how we act. It shows how much we are connected to the natural world and all other living things. The story of how humans changed is a story of always changing and fitting in. It's a story of getting past big challenges and thinking of new ideas. In many ways, it's a story that is still going on. Knowing this history can help us make better choices for ourselves and our world.